At this point, everybody hates Disney, Lucasfilm, Kathleen Kennedy, and all those people who've literally ruined our childhoods. And it was bad enough back in 2017 when Rian Johnson was being outright offensive towards some of our most beloved characters. But it's even worse now because we've gone from offensive but still popular to now a big cesspool of boring, predictable Disney Plus shows that literally no one watches, that is pretty much irrelevant in every single pop culture conversation. Anyone who pretends to have hype or intrigue or is looking forward to the next Star Wars Disney Plus show is either naive or they're faking it. They don't actually care. No one was looking forward to Book of Boba Fett or that Andor show. Nobody was looking forward to Mando Season 3, and they were right about that. It sucked. Star Wars as a franchise has fallen into boring, annoying, mediocre irrelevancy that literally nobody cares about, which is really sad because Star Wars is my favorite movie franchise. I've literally loved every single character, all the movies, even the bad ones. I've loved all of them literally since I was like 4. I used to watch all the movies on repeat. I'd talk to my friends for hours about just random stuff in the Star Wars universe. It was truly something great and magical, even towards like kind of the beginning of the sequel trilogy. I really liked Force Awakens before the rest of its trilogy ruined it. I thought it was pretty good and I was excited to see where some of the things were gonna go. Now, unfortunately, The Last Jedi just backhanded me across the face and decided it didn't care about anything that the actual Star Wars fans liked, and Rian Johnson decided to use it as an opportunity to explore and deconstruct the universe in a way that he saw fit. And it's like, Rian, no one cares about you. In fact, we all actually hate you now. So can you just leave? And luckily Disney did get rid of him. But even though I hated that movie and it was so offensive, at least it was still popular. At least Star Wars as a universe, as a concept, all the characters, they were still popular. We still liked them, and the people who were making them, even though, yeah, they were all sort of corporate hacks who didn't really care about the story in any meaningful way, at least it was still impactful on the conversation, like on the internet and with your friends about movies, okay? At least people still cared. At least people gave a hoot. Now nobody even cares at all. There's no passion whatsoever from anybody involved in the projects. Not from the creative team, not from the executives, and most of all, not from the fans, okay? And in my opinion, this is worse. It's worse to have my favorite franchise be an irrelevant punchline on a streaming service that nobody watches, that brings on Jack Black and Lizzo and thinks that that's somehow a good idea or flows well at all with anything in the history of Star Wars. It's worse that all the excitement is completely stripped away and we're stuck watching little tiny episodes about characters that are going nowhere, we don't care about at all, and we have no incentive to be invested in them because they're not going anywhere. They're not going to be in a movie. They're not going to be in anything that meaningfully changes the universe in an interesting way. They're just there to pad the runtime of the episode and be filler so that Disney Plus can say, oh look, we have this many shows, come watch our streaming service. In many ways, Star Wars is plagued by the same problem as Marvel, except even worse. Whereas Marvel at least has some movies that are interesting, and you're like, okay, at least Guardians of the Galaxy was good. I somewhat enjoyed Ant-Man. Yeah, the shows all suck and I have no interest in watching any of them, but at least they're still trying to do something with it, okay? Star Wars, on the other hand, is not making any movies at all. They have no direction for the universe whatsoever, and the fan base has no interest in any of the projects. And this, as in Marvel's case, is because of the greedy corporate executives with dollar sign eyes who don't care about anything more than putting more content onto the streaming service that they've all invested in. Which, while it might not lead to monetary bankruptcy, it leads to great creative bankruptcy. Nobody cares about anything that's happening because it all reeks of corporateness, and just no one cares about anything that's happening. No one behind the scenes, no one watching it, none of the actors. All the actors are standing there bored in front of a green screen while the director's like, okay, I don't care about this at all, but I guess since they're paying me a bunch of money, I may as well just pump out a bunch of sludge for this streaming service. Oh yeah, and let's make sure to insert the mandatory sly but not so sly political messaging that we for some reason need to embed in all of our movies and shows. So Star Wars has fallen, or should I say it's been pushed, okay? Because this did not happen on accident. A series of terrible decisions and astronomical incompetence led us here. So let's retrace our steps. We start off with a sequel trilogy directed by J.J. Abrams, an extremely overrated director who was only chosen because he directed a couple of okay space films earlier, and a pretentious, annoying wannabe like Christopher Nolan type director who's really just an annoying homeschooled kid with no friends, who thinks he can come along and ruin Star Wars because he just wants to give his own perspective and deconstruct it. And the two of these guys are constantly trying to undermine each other and unwrite storylines that the previous one did, right? They're constantly trying to course correct from each other, which just completely ruined it. And there was also a lack of planning the entire time by the non-genius behind it all, Kathleen Kennedy, who probably should have been fired after like The Last Jedi, you know, but she's still sticking around for some reason and continuing to plummet Star Wars down into the ground. Anyways, the sequel trilogy failed, so they're like, hey, let's try a Star Wars show. So they do The Mandalorian. The first season was pretty good. I have to say it's a little overrated. It's kind of boring, but the greedy corporate executives look at that and they're like, oh, this is moderately good and it made a decent amount of money. Okay, let's make a ton more seasons of this thing, and then let's fast track and crap out 1,000 more Disney Plus shows that we put no thought into, so that way we can make more money on this new streaming service we just invented. And then, to no one's surprise, the shows that nobody behind the scenes care about failed because no one who was watching them cared about them, which then led Star Wars fans to get Star Wars fatigue, which took a lot less time than it did for the Marvel fans who still haven't even experienced it. But anyways, now no one cares about Star Wars whatsoever. Even the most diehard fan base, probably the largest fan base in the history of cinema. The love for this franchise has endured from the 1970s, and it went all the way up until like 2020. Disney Star Wars screwed up so bad that they took the most passionate fan base in the world and made them all bored and complacent and not longing for any new projects whatsoever. And no one's like getting mad that there's not a new movie coming out, and no one's mad that all these shows are so boring and bland and forgettable. And that's all the fault of Disney, Lucasfilm, and Kathleen Kennedy. They murdered the passion of the Star Wars fan base. Something that's honestly kind of impressive, but at the end of the day, it's just sad and cruel, which is why I'm not going to be watching any Star Wars shows on Disney Plus at all, ever, until there's a movie, okay? So I'm done with Star Wars until there's a theatrically released movie that we know is going to be continuing the universe forward in a new and interesting direction, or literally any direction at all. Please, just give me something here, okay? I'm not watching any more of these Mandalorian type shows, because they're bad. They're not good. Anyways, that's all I've got for today. Thank you for listening, and make sure to let me know what you thought about all this down in the comments below, and I hope to see you back next time I make a video.